Alright, so let me show you the tone that we just used in the intro there. So from start to finish, we've got the input, which I've got a gate on, and I've got another gate here because the room I'm in is quite noisy, so I have to use 2 gates to kind of get quite a tight sound. And then I go into compressor. I don't really know whether it does too much. I use it just to get a bit more sustain out of the palm mutes, but it's not like a integral part of the tone. It's just like, it feels a bit nicer to play through it. And I think I've only got 35% mix here, so it's not doing too much. I think it's taken away like 10 dB gain reduction. Let's see. I've got a looper here so we can just hear it. Yeah, so between 5 and 15 dB depending on what I'm playing. Especially in the palm mutes it goes to like 10 to 15. But in reality, because of the 35% mix, it's not doing too much. But I'm mainly using that, as you can see here, 10 dBs of level here. I'm mainly using it as a boost. And that goes into an EQ here, which is essentially doing what a drive pedal would be doing, but I've got a bit more control because I'm using an EQ. So basically taking away a bunch of low end, boosting a bunch of mids, and it's kind of like a slant here, but taking out a lot of 5K because it starts to get a bit like scratchy there. If you boost that too much, you start to hear that. Let me show you what I mean. So as you heard, when I boosted it, it started to get like that, yeah, like kind of scratchy sound in there, which I know some people like, and I think it could sound cool, especially for a riff like this, it could sound cool. But for me, I prefer not to have that most of the time, just to have kind of it sounds a bit cleaner without that. So I cut that out, but everything else is kind of like a bit of an upward slant with, you know, kind of curve around the mid-range. And if you didn't know, that's kind of what your drive pedals are doing, like your 808 pedals. They're kind of doing a very similar thing to that. Then we have the amp, which is a 5150 block letter kind of model in the FM3. And on the input, I'm taking away a bunch of low end, so even more low end than the pedal, than the EQ pedal. And then I'm boosting a touch of high end and boosting some of that 1.2K kind of mid-range. I kind of like the way that sounds, boosting that kind of 1.2K region. Kind of gets that kind of djenty attack. So on the amp itself, I'm running the gain kind of low, but the amp has tons of gain, so it doesn't really matter. Kind of basic settings, to be honest. Kind of cutting away some of those mids because it's a really mid-heavy amp. Slightly boosting bass, slightly boosting treble. Presence fairly high, but not too high. Master volume. The master volume is quite important actually, because the higher you have that, the more of the power amp saturation you get. Which for tones like these, you kind of don't want too much of that. So we turn the master volume down and then compensate by boosting the level a bit. And that gives you a bit of a cleaner sound. But not like clean as in like clean tone. Clean as in like, it sounds less, I don't know, old school saturation. I don't know how to put it. And then on the output, I'm taking away, yeah, a touch of 500, touch of 1K. I don't think I'm doing anything else with the amp here. Let's see. I think this is all just default settings. Yeah, okay. And then we've got those muted because those for the lead tone, the reverb and the filter. But the cab is a cab that I'll make available for free for watching this video. So you just go in the description, pick up the same cab. So you could hopefully get a pretty similar tone. I like how this cab sounds because a lot of my cabs in the past have been like pretty brittle in the high end. But this one's pretty focused in the mid range, and I think that helps with the tone through the mix. So yeah, the lows and the highs are a bit more subtle than is some of my other IRs. And then, I don't know what it is about the Axe and the FM3, but they kind of cut away a little bit of the high end. So I'm boosting from 7K with a high shelf, just a touch, to get a bit of the sizzle back. And then nothing else here. So you might notice there's a drive block here, and that's because I wanted to show you that it doesn't really matter whether I'm using this EQ or the drive block. They kind of have a pretty similar sound. So if I move the EQ out the way and then put the drive block here, then connect it all, and then we listen to that, it'll sound basically the same. And then with the EQ. Yeah, so you can hear it's a pretty similar sound. I think with this I'm cutting away a bit more low end, so it's a bit more kind of crunchy, the tone. Because when you cut away this low end, it stops you getting that kind of like boomy distortion, which doesn't really sound very good, especially on the palm mutes. You kind of want the mid-range to be distorting more than the low end, so that's why that sounds good. That's it. yeah, check out the IR in the description. Hopefully that helps.